Revved up like a douche. What's up, my dudes? This is the track review of the BCMX 306 Compound MX. So this has to be the most AZ bumpy motocross track I've ever rode on in my entire life, dude. So it is definitely difficult. It's difficult in that AZ kind of way, though, if you know what I'm saying. It's not difficult in like a pure sense. The only reason it's difficult is because of how janky everything is built. You see what I'm saying? And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, these tracks are fun. I mean, AZ tracks can be fun at certain points in time. You know, it just all depends on your skill level and how much challenge you're wanting for that particular day and time. But they can be a lot of fun. It's just I want you guys to understand, whenever I say it's difficult, the only reason it's difficult is because it's so bizarre in the way it's built. It's not just like in a raw sense difficult, if that makes any sense. It's kind of like comparing the track, so you think you know SX or whatever those really hard supercross tracks are, hard supercross tracks. It's kind of like comparing that to my Lunar Oasis. You know, it's the same kind of comparison, whereas like those, so you think you know supercross or whatever, those tracks have a lot of really small, janky built jumps, and they're tiny, but you can hit like a quad 580 jump on it, and it makes it difficult in that sense because it's so janky. But like my Lunar Oasis, that's all built pretty well, but it's really, really difficult just because of the sheer scale of everything. So that's more of a pure difficult sense, whereas like so you think you know SX is more of an AZ janky kind of difficult sense. So I just wanted to kind of point out the two different types of difficulties you have out there, and this is definitely more on the janky built kind of side. But like I'm saying, just do not take that the wrong way when I say that, because it's all in what kind of track you like. I mean, some people love these kind of janky built tracks, and I actually do have some enjoyment out of them as well, just because they're so crazy. You know what I mean? They're so like weirdly built that you feel like you've never really rode on something like that before. So they can be very, very frustrating just in the simple fact of, I mean, you know, your bike just wants to not obey you whatsoever, but they're fun in a certain kind of way when you're good at the game. I could definitely see if you weren't very good at the game, this track right here would just drive you absolute nuts, but it's fun in a kind of a weird way to me. But as far as like the layout and the different jumps, a couple of these little drop-offs are kind of fun. They feel kind of like a trail track, but other than that, I mean, it's basically like just a very, very weird layout. It's like you'll come around a corner and you'll just hit a wall, and then you'll come around another corner and you'll hit another wall. You know, it's like a very non-flowy kind of track, which is not a, you know, when I say that, I don't mean it negative. I'm just telling you how the track is. Some people love tracks like this right here because it's kind of like a trail, really challenging kind of track in that sense. And some people like tracks that just have really good flow to them. You know, it's like you like all the corners make sense, and it's like they got fun jumps where you can flow into the next corner really well. Well, this track's not that at all. Like pretty non-existent flow on this track. I mean, a couple little corners in the sand, I guess you could consider that they have a little bit of flow, but that's about the only places that have any sort of flow, and there's really no jumps on this track either. So, you know, you're not getting your fun factor of like shooting into the sky. That's not what's fun about this track. Your fun factor is definitely coming from the straight up difficulty of the braking bumps and stuff, and it's the way they're built. I'm telling you, it's like they're so small and they're so close together and they're so like jacked up and rigid that it makes it so upsetting to the bike. Whereas like you could go out there and make a track that had really big, smooth braking bumps, and it would be just as difficult, but you'd be able to hit it more consistently, and it would be more like a pure form of difficulty, whereas this, like I was saying, it's your janky, aidsy kind of difficult style of a track. So if you're into that, I mean, this is your track right here. It'll definitely test your throttle control, because this is one of those tracks, I mean, you basically just got to tone it down a couple notches. I mean, whatever kind of skill level you're normally on, there's just rickety, ragged edge bumps everywhere, so you just got to slow down. And it doesn't help the fact that it's sand, because you're kind of like already bogging down the bike in a sense as well, so you want to hold it wide open, but you can't, because there's just too many of those jagged edge bumps that will just flip over your front end in a split second. So now it does go to this other little sort of darker dirt part of the track, and I don't know, I wasn't the biggest fan of that half of the track. I really like this part right here. It kind of opens up a little bit, where you can get going faster than half of a gear, but it goes up this uphill, and I mean, it's basically a trail track at this point. It really is, because you come around here, still quite a bit of roughness, like in the sand portion, and then you hit this thing, which is just like a wall. I wasn't the biggest fan of the actual filling of the dirt, the traction on this darker dirt right here. Just felt a little bit weird, and it really wasn't fitting the kind of speed you were going on it. To me, it was just kind of a weird feeling, but, to each their own. I mean, some people may love the feeling of this dirt. Whenever I review a track, there's a lot of personal preference and stuff like that goes into it. Now, as far as off track, pretty decent. I mean, I like how he's got his, over there, it's basically, it's like down in a quarry or something like that, which it is something cool and different. I mean, you got to give him props for doing that. But yeah, if people say, hey, this is the most difficult motocross track ever, well, you can say it's one of the most aidsy motocross tracks, but you got to be careful when you say difficult, because there's all different types of difficult out there, it's hard to explain that if you haven't really played the game, but it's all in how things are built that can affect that different stuff. But I mean, this right here, this is basically like an uphill trail track, so that's kind of what you got right here. But yeah, I'm just reviewing this little motocross portion here, by the way. I think there's a supercross track on this, and no telling what all else. But yeah, whenever I do these reviews, it's only on like one track of the certain compound or whatever. So but off track and on track, I mean, decent decal work and all that. I kind of do like the shading he's got over here. It makes it about 3 times as tricky, but it's kind of it's cool, something a little bit different. You kind of come in and out of the shading over here, so it does add a little bit of realism in that sense. But I don't know, it's not my cup of tea of a track, and it's not just because it's difficult. That's not why. It's because its lack of flow. That's what kind of turns me off a little bit. I mean, you can have a track that is just as difficult or more difficult than this, but it just flows better, and your bumps are more consistently rounded off, so that you can actually sit there and run laps on it without just having to slow down to a creep, So that's kind of this track right here. But overall, I mean, decent, when you consider everything here. Got a nice little waterfall or something going on over there. So I would say the difficulty, definitely Pastrana, but it's aidsy Pastrana, It's kind of a different type of difficulty in that sense. But anyways, I appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.